Ever stumbled upon a story so wild it feels ripped straight from the pages of, like, a sci-fi novel?
Totally.
Well, we're diving into one of those today.
Oh, yeah?
The potential revival of the Tasmanian tiger.
It's a story that truly captures the imagination.
No kidding. Imagine, like, a creature that looks like a dog but decided to hit the gym and ended up with tiger stripes.
Right.
Oh, and it's rocking a pouch.
Wow.
That was the Tasmanian tiger, or a thylacine, the apex predator of Tasmania.
Yeah.
Until, well, humans entered the picture.
It's a somber chapter in our history.
Yeah.
The last known Tasmanian tiger died in captivity back in 1936.
Right.
Hunted to extinction, they became a stark reminder of our impact on the planet.
And for a long time, it felt like the final word had been written on the Tasmanian tiger.
Right.
Tragic loss, but like a done deal.
Yeah.
Then researchers made an unexpected discovery.
The discovery found not in the wild, but in a cupboard, in a jar.
Seriously. Picture this. A preserved Tasmanian tiger head just floating in ethanol for over a century, just waiting to be rediscovered. You can't make this stuff up.
Amazing.
What an absolute game changer.
It certainly sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Professor Andrew Pask at the University of Melbourne was examining this preserved head and, astonishingly, discovered intact RNA molecules.
Okay, back up a second. For those of us who haven't taken a biology class in a while, remind us what's so special about RNA.
Think of RNA as like the crucial messenger, the go-between for DNA and the rest of the cell.
Okay.
It's responsible for translating the instructions encoded in DNA and turning them into functional proteins, the building blocks of life.
Right.
Finding intact RNA after over a century, that's almost unheard of in the field of genetics.
So it's like finding a perfectly preserved telegram from a bygone era, except instead of a message from a person, it's a message from the past itself.
A message that could hold the key to resurrecting an extinct species. You see, this intact RNA provides us with a unique opportunity to decipher the Tasmanian tiger's genetic code, its genome.
Okay, that brings up the really fascinating question. How do you go from a head in a jar to bringing an extinct species back to life?
This is where the cutting edge of science really comes into play. It's all about genome sequencing. Imagine a jigsaw puzzle, but instead of a picturesque landscape, it's the intricate blueprint for a living, breathing Tasmanian tiger.
Okay, so we're talking about like mapping out the entire genetic sequence.
Exactly. It's about determining the exact order of all the chemical building blocks, those DNA molecules, which make up an organism's entire genome.
But that's like, what, millions, billions of pieces in that puzzle? How do you even begin to put that together?
It's an incredibly complex and intricate process, but picture this. Scientists, using this preserved head, have managed to reconstruct 99.9% of the Tasmanian tiger's genome.
99.9%. That's incredible. Talk about a scientific feat. But what about that remaining 0.1%? How big of a roadblock is that?
It's true that even a small gap in the genetic code can pose significant challenges. Think of it like a blueprint with a few crucial details smudged out.
Okay.
However, researchers are actively working to fill those gaps, to decipher the missing pieces of the puzzle.
It's like having almost all the ingredients for like a complex recipe, but you're missing a couple of key spices.
Right.
You might be able to get close, but without those missing pieces, it's just not quite the same.
You hit the nail on the head. And this is where the Tasmanian Tiger Genome Project stands out. Despite the challenges, achieving 99.9% completion from a century-old specimen is a remarkable testament to how far genetic science has come.
It really makes you wonder what's next. We have the blueprint, or at least a near-perfect draft. But how do we go from a string of genetic code to a living, breathing creature?
That's a question that takes us from the realm of science fiction to the forefront of groundbreaking research.
This is where things get really interesting.
It does.
So we've got this near-complete genetic blueprint for the Tasmanian tiger, thanks to that incredibly well-preserved head and the hard work of some brilliant scientists.
Absolutely.
But having a blueprint and actually building something from it,
right.
Those are two entirely different things.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
It's one thing to have the instructions, but quite another to assemble all the parts and bring something to life.
Yeah.
Especially when that something is a creature that's been extinct for almost a century.
And that's where Colossal Biosciences enters the scene.
Yeah.
They're the ones taking on this ambitious, almost audacious challenge. And what's fascinating about Colossal is that their work isn't limited to just the Tasmanian tiger.
Right.
They're also exploring the de-extinction of woolly mammoths and dodos.
Their ambition is truly remarkable.
Right.
They're pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible in the world of genetics.
It's mind-blowing to think that we might actually see these creatures walking the earth again.
It is.
How exactly do they plan on doing it?
Yeah.
How do you go from a genetic sequence on a computer screen to a living, breathing animal?
Well, Colossal has been understandably tight-lipped about the specifics of their process.
Right.
They're at the forefront of a very competitive field.
Sure.
However, they have hinted that a major announcement regarding their Tasmanian Tiger project is on the horizon.
A major announcement. Okay, now you've really piqued my curiosity. What do you think they're going to reveal? Have they hit any major milestones?
I suspect they might be ready to share some breakthroughs in their gene editing techniques, specifically as they relate to marsupials.
Gene editing, that's a term we hear a lot these days.
We do.
Can you unpack that a bit for us? How does it actually work?
At its core, gene editing is about making precise changes to an organism's DNA sequence.
Okay.
Think of it like using a set of molecular scissors to snip out specific genes and potentially replace them with others.
Okay.
It's a powerful tool. And one of the most talked about techniques is CRISPR. Yeah, I vaguely remember hearing about that.
It's a revolutionary tool.
Okay.
CRISPR allows scientists to target and modify DNA with incredible precision.
Wow.
It's like having a word processor for the genetic code.
Oh, wow.
You can cut, paste, and even rewrite specific segments of DNA.
Wow.
It's completely transformed the field of genetics.
So, using techniques like CRISPR, how would Colossal apply this to the Tasmanian tiger?
Right.
Where do you even begin?
It's a multifaceted process, and one of the biggest challenges is finding a suitable surrogate mother to carry and give birth to a Tasmanian tiger.
Right.
Given the complexities of marsupial reproduction, they'll need to select a close relative of the thylacine.
A close relative, you say? Like what animal could possibly be a surrogate for a Tasmanian tiger?
Based on their research and the genetic similarities, it seems likely that they'll be using a dunnart as a surrogate.
A dunnart?
Yeah.
Isn't that like a tiny mouse-like creature?
They are small.
How can that even be possible?
Yeah.
They seem worlds apart. It's all about those evolutionary connections.
Okay.
While they might look drastically different on the outside, dunnarts are actually close relatives of the thylacine, sharing a surprising amount of their DNA.
So they'd essentially modify the dunnart's DNA to match the Tasmanian tiger's genome and then implant an embryo.
You're on the right track.
Okay.
Of course, the reality is far more intricate, involving cutting-edge techniques to ensure the viability of the embryo and the health of the surrogate.
Sure.
There are still significant hurdles to overcome, but the basic concept is sound.
It's incredible to think about the scientific journey that's, brought us to this point.
It is.
Who would have thought that a preserved head in a jar would hold the potential to, bring back an extinct species?
It really highlights the fact that, we live in an age of extraordinary scientific advancements.
Right.
Yeah.
But as with any powerful technology, it's crucial to consider the potential ramifications.
Absolutely.
Both intended and unintended.
Oh.
Right. Because we're not just talking about scientific breakthroughs here.
Right.
We're talking about potentially reshaping the natural world.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin to unpack the ethical considerations of bringing back an extinct species?
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Right.
And it's a discussion that extends beyond the scientific community.
Right.
Sure, for example.
Yeah.
What would be the ecological impact of reintroducing the Tasmanian tiger to its former habitat?
Right.
Would it integrate seamlessly, or could it disrupt the delicate balance of the ecosystem?
Right.
These are questions that, ecologists and conservationists are grappling with.
Yeah, it's like a real-life game of Jenga.
Right.
You pull out one piece, and the entire tower could be affected.
Exactly.
Are we risking unintended consequences that we can't even predict?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And those potential consequences extend beyond the ecosystem itself.
Right.
We also have to consider the well-being of the individual animals involved. What kind of life would a resurrected Tasmanian tiger have? Would it be able to thrive in a world that's vastly different from the one it last knew?
Right.
These are questions that delve into the realm of animal welfare and ethics.
That's an important point.
It is.
We can't just consider the, scientific marvel.
Right.
We have to think about the quality of life for these animals.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It is. And then there's the question of resource allocation.
Okay.
de-extinction is a costly endeavor,
Sure.
requiring significant financial investments and scientific manpower.
Right.
Some argue that those resources might be better directed toward protecting endangered species that are currently on the brink.
It's like a balancing act of sorts.
Yeah.
Looking back at what we've lost
Right.
while also focusing on protecting what we still have.
It is a balancing act.
Yeah.
And it raises questions about our priorities as a society.
Right.
Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to proceed with de-extinction is a complex one. That requires careful consideration of all these factors.
There's certainly a lot to think about.
There is.
This whole story, it's a fascinating blend of science, ethics, and the sheer wonder of the natural world.
It truly is. And I think what intrigues me the most is that it forces us to confront our role, not just as observers of the natural world,
Right.
but as like potential architects of its future.
It's both humbling and a little bit daunting.
It is.
We'll certainly be following Colossal's progress with great interest.
Absolutely.
Their upcoming announcement could mark a pivotal moment in our understanding of what's possible.
For sure.
Who knows, maybe we'll witness the impossible become reality in our lifetime. The return of the Tasmanian tiger.
That'd be incredible.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Okay.
Until next time.